I am the place with only 3 colors. Blue of sky, white of snow, black of rock. I am the place where the temperature is often very cold and where the air is uncomfortably thin. I am the place where life, all life, is very fragile. I am the mountain so high that no bird can fly over me, although many have tried. To the Tibetans, I am Chomolungma, goddess mother of the earth. To the Nepalese, I am Sagarmartha, goddess mother of the sky. And to the rest of the world, I am Mount Everest. Nine American mountaineers depart the United States bound for the Kingdom of Nepal to join the Inventa Everest 2000 environmental expedition. They will team up with the largest contingent of Sherpas ever assembled for a cleanup operation. Their goal is to unburden Mount Everest of over 40 years of expedition garbage and to summit the world's highest peak. Here, the Westerners meet their Eastern guides and make their final preparations. Bob Hoffman, a former airline manager, is the expedition leader and mastermind behind the $500,000 cleanup operation. Appa Sherpa is responsible for managing all Sherpas on the expedition and overseeing the climbing logistics. Pemba Norbu will help coordinate a team of 22 cleanup Sherpas.
580 rupees. For Appa and then for... Well, Appa and Pemba don't pay them.
Professional mountain guide Jim Williams, along with Appa, will lead the 9-member climbing team. Each member has paid their way for a chance to summit Everest. Sometimes called Mr. Everest, for reaching the top in his 10 previous climbs, Appa will climb this year for a world record 11th summit. Appa combs the back alleys of Kathmandu in search of materials for the base camp puja ceremony. Rice, incense, kata scarves, and prayer flags are all on the shopping list.
Prayer flags need to go over our complete camp area, and we'll have five lines of prayer flags going out. I still have mine from the 98 expedition.
Prayer flags are thought to bring good luck in Buddhist cultures.
The blue is the sky.
Mm-hmm.
The white is the clouds.
Clouds?
Yeah.
The red is for
and
fire?
The red is fire. The green is earth.
Yes.
And also
The yellow.
The yellow is water.
But also each one has a prayer on it. And the Lungla horse is the fast carrier of the prayers to the heavens. And it's believed that each time the wind blows the flags, it's sending those prayers for safety to heaven. So that's the significance of them.
Before the expedition can set out for base camp, Appa must bring the ceremony items to a Rinpoche to be blessed. However, Rinpoches are not always easy to find in the bustle of Kathmandu. Finally, after many turns, they find him. Rinpoches are Buddhist holy men considered to be the reincarnates of the former High Lamas. The traditional tea is served and the puja offerings are blessed. A 63-year-old Sherman Bull accompanies Hoffman on a dawn run at the Monkey Temple. Should the surgeon from Connecticut succeed in his summit bid, he will be the oldest human being to do so. This will be his 4th attempt. Having completed their preparations, the team embarks on the last air leg. The 1-hour flight into the Khumbu Valley and the beginning of the trek to base camp. Coupled with gusty winds and a very short landing strip that requires good brakes, Lukla Airstrip gives even the most experienced Khumbu pilots reservations about landing here.
That was sunrise. Our pilot kept saying, holy shit, holy shit. We go, whoa, you say.
From here, they will walk the rest of the way to base camp. Porters and yaks shoulder much of the load. Each porter carries up to 70 pounds. Everything is instinctively weighed simply by touch. Mount Everest lies on the border between Tibet and Nepal in the Sagarmatha National Park. The word Sherpa does not mean mountain porter as it is often mistranslated in the West. It simply means people from the East, referring to the neighboring region of Tibet. The Sherpa people have been migrating to the high reaches of the Himalaya from Tibet for over 500 years. With a population of 1,000, Namshi Bazaar is the largest village in the Khumbu region. Even today, Tibetans come weekly to this Sherpa capital to ply their wares at the Saturday market. The team will return here at the end of the expedition, carrying all the collected refuse to be recycled or incinerated. Canadian Jamie Ross is the environmental director of the expedition. Ross was also a member of Hoffman's 1998 expedition.
We're working with a group here called the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee, and they are a group that is organized to oversee environmental issues in this park, which is the Sagarmatha National Park. The most important thing to come out of this expedition is have a major impact on the cleanup up at base camp and on the mountain, get a lot of the trash off, and raise awareness of what we're doing so that other people will do the same.
separate your garbage, you know.
The SPCC will work with the 17 teams climbing Mount Everest this season. Each team must provide accurate counts of equipment going to base camp. The government requires the teams must pack out expedition garbage or lose a $4,000 deposit.
That actually makes sense.
Awesome.
By current Himalayan standards, this expedition is a massive operation. It will utilize 200 yaks to carry 7 tons of equipment and climbing gear and 1 ton of food to sustain the entire team for 8 weeks. The Tengboche Monastery lies approximately halfway between Lukla and base camp. The monastery was established in 1916 and is one of the more renowned monasteries in the Khumbu region. Here, the team rests and receives a blessing. The team awakens to an unseasonal snowfall. The presence of snow at this elevation can mean an early monsoon season. On the 10th and final day of the trek, and just 8 hours walking distance from base camp, the team reaches the Sherpa Memorial.
It's a very significant place here to, just come and visit them, and because this is a very special place for the climber who died on Everest and on the mountain, and as per our Buddhist religion, once the people died, we have to cremate on the mountain, on the top of the mountain, which you can see the whole mountains and the river, running river. That will take you to the heaven. We believe on that.
Do you have friends here?
Sure. Yeah.
It's very spiritual. I just love the sound of the wind, and it's a chance to reflect. It's at this point for me the expedition starts to become very real.
It seems to be a gateway for me, where the trek finally ends, and now we're starting into thinking about climbing the mountain.
It's a very solemn place. I guess this is kind of like where our humanity meets the top of the world and the heavens, because all these stoneworks that represent the people who have lost their lives on the mountain, it really shows the effort and the loss.
This is mostly, you'll see the Sherpas climbers here, but these days they are sharing with the Vaishnavas too.
I knew Scott Fisher, but he's one of the toughest mountaineers I ever knew. When you think that he and Rob Hall could die on Everest, it means that anybody could die on Everest. It reminds us of our mortality, and reminds us that we have to know when it's time to turn back and try and always make the right judgment calls. Not go beyond our capabilities. Everest is worth climbing, it's not worth dying for, that's for sure.
young Sherpa boy. He was on another team. There was only 3 teams in '95 on the mountain. And we were going on up to Camp 3, and we were sort of the bottom of the Lhotse face, and he was getting near to the camp. And he didn't clip in to the fixed line. And he stumbled and fell, and we watched him fall all the way down the mountain, leaving a trail of blood. By the time he hit the bottom, he was already dead. And it was the first time we've seen anybody die on the mountain. And it always reminds us of just how dangerous that Lhotse face is. And I always come up here and just spend a minute. There's too many up here. Too many.
Bob, where's my tent?
Each climbing season, base camp must be built from scratch. The only materials used are the rocks and boulders that are churned out by the ever-shifting glacial moraine. While comparatively safe, life on the moraine of a glacier does have its challenges. It's hard, it's cold, and it moves. A 5-foot-per-day glacial flow slowly agitates years of biological waste deposited at the upper camps. A continual contamination of groundwater is a constant health hazard for the people living at base camp during the climbing seasons.
The human waste problem at base camp is hard to distinguish from the animal waste problem at base camp. What we've found so far is that the water supplies in some places are showing moderate contamination with fecal coliform. And fecal coliform is an indication of contamination by biological waste. Whether it's from humans or yaks, we don't actually know. We can't tell that here. But what we are finding is that some areas that people use for water sources are actually contaminated. And that makes us obviously change our water sources, be more careful with the water that we're drinking, and trying to make sure that any human waste generated here is definitely contained and treated so that we're not contributing to that problem.
Samples were 1.5 centimeters.
At this elevation, the amount of oxygen in the air is half of what it is at sea level, which makes the actual act of cleaning up more difficult. The Sherpas live at elevations, some as high as 14,000 feet, which naturally allows them to physically accomplish what many people from sea level cannot.
We've hired an additional 22 high-altitude Sherpas to concentrate on the cleanup effort. Our plan for Camp 2, once we get it established, is to
have the Sherpas clean up as much of the exposed garbage as possible. So far, the reports from the teams who have gotten in there have indicated that we have a very high snow and ice level up there. It's going to make finding this garbage and removing it a very difficult task. The Sherpas will then continue up to Camp 4 to remove some of the hundreds of oxygen bottles that are still up there, as well as tent poles and some general trash.
Avalanches, falling ice seracs the size of houses, and aluminum ladders precariously balanced over crevices are all hazards in this lumbering river of ice. More climbers have perished in the Khumbu icefall than in any other part of the mountain, even the summit. Human beings do not perform well at this elevation due to the lack of oxygen. An acclimatization process is necessary to adapt the body to the thin air of this new environment. Time spent at the higher camps enables red blood cells to multiply, which in turn will carry more oxygen. The climbing team continue their acclimatization while the Sherpas push up to Camp 4 to begin the cleanup operation. Although the Khumbu icefall is regarded as the most dangerous leg of the climb, the Lhotse face is no casual walk in the park. It is a 4,000-foot, near-vertical wall of ice. Like the icefall, multiple trips up and down only increase the danger for anyone traveling.
Because the wind-blown South Col is accessible, we wanted to go up there and clean off the hundreds of oxygen bottles that have been left. And mainly these are the large, heavy ones that no one wanted to bring down in the past. Some of them weigh up to 15 pounds a bottle.
In Nepal, the average annual income is $500 per year. At $25 per bottle, this man will make his income in 4 trips to the South Col. Down the hill, he will walk with 5 empty bottles in his pack, worth $125. Ask any Sherpa why he climbs, and the answer is nearly always the same. I climb today so that my children do not have to climb tomorrow. But how did the garbage come to be here in the first place? The climb up Everest itself is so arduous, so dangerous, so cold and windy, that past climbers felt lucky just to get out alive. They thought little about the trash they left behind. The accumulation of garbage is simply the past 40 years of climbers reaching for the roof of the world and often hastily retreating.
Yeah, Fehma is speaking from Camp 2, over.
Jamie, can you hear me?
You know, our Sherpa is going up to South Col and they're starting to bring down the oxygen bottles. And I'm going to scale here how many weight of the oxygen bottles. And I'm going to send down from Camp 2 to base camp because there were 9 Sherpas is coming up tomorrow from base camp to camp 2, and on the way back I'll send down there some garbage and some oxygen, some empty oxygen bottles over.
Okay, I understand. Is it possible for us to weigh the bottles here instead of at...
Today is our rest day. We're out looking for garbage and trash left by previous expeditions. That's not going too well because, mainly because the snow and ice cap here at Camp 2 is way higher than it normally is. Usually this is bare rock and you can see a lot of the trash, but now it's covered with snow and ice, so we're combing the area without too much success.
A storm moves rapidly up the western Coombe, temporarily halting the cleanup effort. The climbers, accompanied by several Sherpas, retreat back to base camp with the first full packs of trash and oxygen bottles. The remaining Sherpas will wait out the storm at Camp 2. Once the weather clears, they will promptly resume the cleanup operation.
That's it? Yep, 20 kg.
All the trash and bottles that come into base camp must be weighed and logged to accurately compensate the cleanup Sherpas, as well as present a final report to the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee.
And on the oxygen bottles, here's how much per kilo. And so if it's 115 kilo bottle or 6 for a total of 15,
right,
you're getting the same money. It's by the weight. Just say that one again. I just want to make sure I got it right.
Okay, so it's 15 kilograms.
Yeah, but how many rupees for the full trip?
Camp 4 to base camp is 3,800 rupees.
I think most of the Kumbus, Sherpas, they are all belong for the trekkings and climbings because of, we don't have educations. Now we have a good school in the Kathmandu. We can do anything, If we want to learn about like a doctor, we have doctor schools, engineering school, everything is Kathmandu. But those the Sherpa who live in the mountain area, they are good for the mountain areas because they're used to the altitude. They like to study about like a doctor and like an engineer, but they don't have enough economic, the problem of the economic. So they are running for the Everest and other mountains because they get a good money.
This is my income, otherwise I don't have a job. After this I have to stay like 5 or 6 months in Kathmandu without job. Because my son, I have 2 boys, they are going to school, then I have to looking all of them, and I have to pay for the house rent, like apartments. Because of the expedition and trekking, we get a good chance to earn money. Then our children, they are very lucky, they can go to school in Kathmandu. Otherwise, we are just stay in village. We don't have a good school in our village.
Sherpas are extremely good business people. The families work in these units, so as a family unit, they will make a fairly substantial chunk of change. Probably in the end, more money than a U.S. guide would make on the trip.
Weather forecasting in the Himalaya is extremely challenging. Expeditions rely on daily satellite images streaming in on the internet.
We have got a weather report from Breckenridge for the next 5 days, and that weather report is not good. Repeat, that weather report is not good.
While the cleanup team of Sherpas contend against the inclement weather at the high camps, the subject at base camp is the rapidly closing summit window.
We're looking at a good day. I don't see the point of going one day behind 900 million people right now until we have an idea that there might be a good day.
I think everyone realizes or feels like, at least I feel like, we've only got one summit in this group here. We're not going to go up twice. And I just feel like since we've put this much effort and time, we should wait till we get a better window deal.
What's the downside of waiting at Camp 2 rather than waiting here?
What you gain in acclimatization, you lose in strength, and the balance isn't equal. And so while you acclimatize a little bit more, you may have a little bit less of a headache when you get up to 4. You've grown that much weaker. Base camp, you're maintaining. But I'm looking at the weather, and the weather has not been good. It has not been the weather that I've seen on this mountain 3 previous times. Know the disasters that occurred with 3 things. If you got bad weather, high winds, deep snows, you're not going to get to the summit. A couple people do. If you have long lines of people going on up, and you get caught up into the queue, more or less to speak, you don't make it. And if you go up too high and you're sitting up there and you're waiting for your summit, you're so beat up, you don't make it.
Weeks of living and working at this altitude continue to take its toll on the climbers. Team member Rob Chang has fallen ill and has little choice but to leave the expedition.
You know, I've been climbing for 11 years. And going down, I know what it means. But like I said, I don't want to become a liability, or I'm not getting better, and actually kind of feeling worse, so.
It's always a matter of judgment in terms of the time it takes for your body to acclimatize, which is a finite process that you have to spend time getting used to this altitude so you're comfortable breathing, and so your body needs time to acclimatize to that. On the other hand, the other thing that's happening to your body is there's a continuous, slow deterioration process going on. And so it's a balance of the time it takes to acclimatize and get that done properly, and not wait too long until the deterioration process begins to get ahead of the acclimatization process and you have a net loss.
Living at extreme altitude is not physiologic. Man wasn't made to live here for a long period of time, and in fact there are no indigenous populations that live this high. Part of the problems are that you don't sleep as well, you malabsorb fats, particularly you tend to lose weight. With that, you lose vigor.
And then the thing you don't want to have happen is the body begins to metabolize the muscle mass. And that results in weakness. And weakness does not work when you're climbing Everest. You got to be strong. We do everything we can to prevent weight loss. We have huge high-calorie meals. Many of us take supplements of different kinds to try and keep the calories on. In fact, I've always thought I could open a Mount Everest weight loss school and guarantee our participants in writing a loss of weight. There's no way you can maintain your weight up here.
And that's what we're sort of facing here as we wait out the weather.
Sherpas continue to make progress on cleaning up the high camps amidst deep snow and harsh weather.
We have 324 oxygen bottles, expecting another approximately 40 or 50 today and tomorrow. Trash-wise, we've brought a bunch of trash down from Camp 2, and that's been mostly food waste, old tents, tent poles, gas canisters, and batteries, and the total on that is approximately 500 pounds.
We're picking up some of the oldest bottles and the heaviest bottles that earlier teams, which were helping out with cleanups, didn't bring down because of their weight. All of the oxygen bottles that have been brought down are dated. And this particular bottle was manufactured in June of 1951. The first team to go up was in 1952. It was a Swiss team. The leader, a gentleman by the name of Lambert, and Tenzing Norgay reached the place we call a balcony at about 27,000 feet. In other words, they almost made it to the summit. They came very, very close, and we believe very strongly that this is one of those bottles from that very first attempt, or in other words, the very first oxygen bottle that was ever dropped at the South Col. There were a number of these little fat ones. We have all seen pictures of the Hillary Tenzing climb. This is the exact bottle that Hillary and Tenzing used on the 53 climb. This style bottle was only used by that team. It was a military bottle that was manufactured for the British military. After that, all climbers were getting their bottles from Europe, and they were privately manufactured. So we have two real antiques.
Finally, after nearly 7 weeks, Bob Hoffman receives the weather report he has been waiting for. The summit is clear.
But this is giving you as a constant feed of O2 at 2 liters, 3 liters, whatever, per minute. You'll probably find that you up high will want to have your mask on most of the time.
I'm sort of conflicted about it. On one hand, I find it very constricting. I feel as though I'm being asphyxiated. I want to rip the mask off, and yet I can feel my fingers getting warmer, my toes begin to warm up, and I move faster. And so I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives of using an oxygen apparatus.
This is the glamorous side of mountaineering right here. Home to me recently, I checked an email from my youngest son, and he said, "Dad, be careful, I don't want to lose you now." And I thought, God, what am I doing to the people at home? I got a tear in my eye thinking, I got this 18-year-old kid that's afraid I'm going to die. And, I have no intention of dying, but we always have that risk. I think not enough exposure is given to this side of mountaineering, because it really is in some ways a selfish sport, because I don't think enough of us pay attention to what effect it has on others. So I just think to sort of balance out the glamour and the beauty and all the hype, it's good stuff of climbing. It's good to think about the people back home and the kind of anxieties and in some cases downright suffering they go through.
On Sherm's third Everest trip, one slip in the middle of the night nearly cost him his life.
I think we were just below the balcony, and then suddenly, boom. I don't really know exactly what happened. I think I just misplaced a crampon, and I went down. And when you go down on a steep, icy surface, you begin to enjoy the effects of uncontrolled gravity.
A crevasse saved Sherm from falling off the 5,000-foot face of Everest. Bob Boyce witnessed Sherm's fall and traversed in the dark along the icy balcony to reach him. Boyce abandoned his own summit aspirations to short rope his injured friend the 5 hours down to Camp 4. Others joined in the rescue effort in what would be an excruciating 2-day descent to base camp. Sherm was evacuated with severe multiple injuries that would take nearly a year to recover from. Hoffman's team will be one of the last expeditions to summit this season. Additional cleanup Sherpas will accompany the climbers to the summit to do a final sweep of the upper mountain.
But as long as we don't get any more snow tonight, we'll be all right. I'm just concerned about more snow, because that could give us avalanche danger. But if we don't get any more snow tonight, we can cut a trail on up. Shit's coming out of the south. And it's never good when the clouds moving out of the south. And that's always what I've always looked for. We normally get the winds off Everest going in a more northerly, easterly direction. Get the shit moving out of the south. Until that wind shifts, we're going to continue to have this.
I think all the waiting around was worth it. I mean, it was hard for everybody, including people who are making decisions about when to go. But now we're up here and I think we're ready to do it.
pretty lucky. I don't know if the weather's going to be on our sides or not, but who knows? The spirits of these mountains do very funny things, so who knows? Might just hit it just right. If not, this today may have been just a long training exercise.
The weather up here is a crapshoot. And if what Appa said yesterday is right, from here on out, it's monsoon season, so we should stay up here, give it a crack.
So I want everybody into Camp 4 by noontime, so we'll get an early start. We'll be hydrating and resting, and then we'll start out for the summit somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock at night, climbing through the night. Goal is to be on the south summit between 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning, and on the summit between 8 and 10, and then back down to 4. Stay the night at 4, 2 back here to base camp, and then it's party time.
Chuck Huss and Dan Smith are stricken with altitude-related illnesses and will stay behind at Camp 4. 6 American climbers and 12 Sherpas depart for the summit before midnight. The team leaves the night before to give themselves extra time to reach the summit and descend before the perilous afternoon storms arrive. For the next 7 hours, the team will climb in complete darkness. As dawn breaks, the sun is out, but ominous clouds form below and the winds above begin to increase. Appa and 3 Sherpas are out in front, breaking trail. Appa fixes the rope lines up the 40-foot exposed face known as the Hillary Step. From the summit, the first transmissions are heard.
Appa and Lapachri and Kamirita, 3 Sherpas went summit.
Appa Sherpa summits Mount Everest for the 11th time and establishes a world record. His moment of personal glory is fleeting as Appa descends back into the worsening storm, looking for Sherm Bull. Nearing the Hillary Step, Appa encounters Lily Leonard, Jim Williams, and Francis Slakey. All 3 will soon summit, each for the first time. The storm continues to intensify.
This is base camp. We read you loud and clear. How you doing? Over.
Complete whiteout conditions here. I can't see a damn thing. I'm stuck in place. There's no Sherpa following me, and the team's totally spread out.
At 11 a.m. and in the complete whiteout, Pemba Norbu is the last to summit. Pemba and 3 cleanup Sherpas descend, cleaning up discarded oxygen bottles as they go. Below the south summit, Bob Hoffman wisely decides to abandon his summit bid. Alone and with snow blindness in one eye, he turns and descends towards the South Col. 500 feet below the summit, Appa finds Sherm Bull. Unwilling to allow the storm to daunt him, Sherm pulls himself methodically up the fixed lines. Taking into consideration the intensity of the storm, Appa convinces him to turn back and give up his dream.
Sherm and Appa's coming back, turning back,
For those at base camp, all that is left to do is wait for confirmation that the team has arrived back safely at Camp 4. Bob Boyce, alone at the south summit, calls in to report that his oxygen tank has frozen up.
Hey, Ben, traffic. I ran out of air to drink. About 7%.
Jim Williams intercepts the transmission.
Ben, relax, start breathing, get yourself in a comfortable place. May take some time.
Eventually finding Bob Boyce, weak and very cold. Williams replaces the frozen tank and the two descend together back to Camp 4. It has been 22 hours since the team left Camp 4. They now begin a 2-day descent to base camp. In their final sweep of the upper mountains and the South Col, the Sherpas will pack out more than 100 spent oxygen bottles and other refuse.
I'm so proud of you, hon. You don't know how much. Man, that was a bitch of a day, and you just did more than even I wanted to do. I am super proud of you.
I'm 58 years old, and it kicked the stuffing out of me coming down. But coming down was really life-threatening. I mentioned to you I had one eye shut down. I had to take off my goggles, so I knew I was susceptible to snow blindness, because I couldn't see out of them. In this blizzard, we had a whiteout the whole time we were up there. And so what I was having to do is, we had a line of ropes going up, and I clipped into a figure 8 and rappelled backwards, where I could kind of see where the rope was coming from. But I kept on stumbling into deep snowdrifts.
This frostbite, I think it's almost worse maybe 5 days after it happens as opposed to when it has actually occurred. I mean, I've never really had a bad case before, but I knew it at the balcony that I was going to have frostbite. I'll be honest with you, I'm really scared. I hope I don't lose anything, like any tips. That wouldn't be good. You don't realize how much you depend upon your fingers until you lose them for a few days.
Actually, we had get on the summit at the right time, around 8 o'clock on the summit. No, first, I went to summit. I went to fix the rope all the way up to summit, and I came back to Hillary step, and I met Lily, and I went back to summit again.
Two times.
This time, I wanted to get all the team on the summit, but unfortunately, the weather was changed, and only the three submitted.
So you see it as your job to get the whole team on the summit?
On the top, I wanted to get all on the summit, but the weather was changed.
Next thing you know, Appa pops over the hill. This guy, I'm telling you, I just can't, you've heard about him, I can't say enough about him. Not just as a Sherpa, but as a person. So he comes over the hill, and I'm struggling away. And he said, Sherm, I want to get you to the summit more than anything in the world. And he said, I think probably I could get you there. But then he said, I don't know about getting you down, Sherm. He said, I think you might die. And then the thing that really got me was he said, I think a Sherpa might die doing it. I said, Appa, I'd take your advice 100%. I would never put somebody else's life at risk for anything I want to do. I mean, it's one thing if a climber wants to risk his own scrawny neck, that's something, but to take somebody else's life, put that at risk, no one has the right to do that, particularly on an egotistical adventure like climbing a mountain. I thought over for about 10 seconds, and I said, Appa, let's go down. And I gave up my dream, and I got a little emotional about giving up my dream and trying to do this thing for almost 10 years now. But there are more important things. I chose life, I chose my wife, I chose my family, and I didn't want to jeopardize those things.
The Inventa Everest 2000 environmental expedition left base camp with 632 discarded oxygen bottles and over 600 pounds of garbage from the high camps. 3 Western climbers and 10 Sherpas reached the summit of Everest, and a new world record was established by Appa Sherpa. For the Sherpas, this ends the climbing season. Many will return next year to support other expeditions.
Our simple message is
that no matter where we live, no matter what we do, we can do a better job in cleaning up our own environment. If we were able to come to some place as difficult and with an environment as harsh as Mount Everest has, and clean it up, there's nothing we can't do in the world in helping the environment.